Yeah, this does seem like a way to. I haven't thought about this. I haven't dug this deep on this belief,
Yeah.
and I feel like this strategy has been effective.
In getting
Uh,
you to explore it.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I like the format. I like the idea.
Excellent. That's fantastic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I would state the belief as life is sacred.
Okay.
I'm using sacred here in a non-religious way, but to haul in what it would mean in a religious
Okay.
context.
Maybe life is valuable. More than that.
Um,
Uh-huh.
It's that it deserves a certain kind of respect. It deserves a certain kind of almost deference. Um, Maybe nature is sacred could be another way to put it. That's not right either.
Okay.
Or nature, not nature. Like the wants of others are important. No,
Okay. I
I
think
think the first wording is
this
closest.
this seems like this could be an interesting thing to explore.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
do you want to maybe try to solidify? I can so again, my role here is to help you. So maybe
Yeah.
I can help you try to ask some questions to see if we can um, solidify the claim.
Okay.
Does that sound like a good idea?
That sounds great.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to try to help you maybe solidify the claim, or figure out maybe what the core of your claim is. So it started with life is sacred, and you said that it's not necessarily a religious thing, but it's stronger than life is valuable.
Yeah. Or different from. Yeah.
Different from. Okay. I don't know if this is gonna help or hurt. That's why this is sort of practice. But I'm gonna open up the chat thing, and you can look at this if you want. You don't have to. I'm just gonna to write like the phrases. I'm not even sure if I like doing this, so this is just an experiment.
Yeah. Let's
Um,
find out.
okay. So I'm just, life is sacred, life is valuable, something to look at to come back to. And you also said maybe a slightly different thing, which is that people have a responsibility. Life should be respected. Okay. So when you use the word sacred and you say that it's not religious, what do you mean by sacred?
I think I mean that it feels like no matter what I understand or do in the world, there is a degree to which that does not give me the ability or freedom to mess with life. That there's something about another living thing, even if I could understand its workings completely. I could have grown it in a lab from, DNA that I made myself,
Uh-huh.
but I still won't feel comfortable squishing it.
Uh-huh.
Because sacred means that sort of the concept of life exists that concept exists in a different plane for me, where like life is what enables me to exist. And therefore, if I identify life in something else, I must give it kind of the same benefit of being allowed to do its thing that I hope that I am given.
Okay. So does this include all life? Or maybe the better question is, what do you mean by life?
It gets fuzzy, in some places, but I would say life something is alive when there's a few different ways to put it. I don't know if I like this one best. This is one definition. Okay. When it appears to make decisions in the interest of its own survival. But maybe there's a more basic way to put it. Like something is alive when it appears to be able to have a state where it shows the signs of life. It can move, it can make decisions, things like that. And it then has the quality of being able to reproduce itself. Maybe let's say those two things. Something that can just reproduce itself but doesn't do anything else in between doesn't really count. It's like a virus for the simply. Something that can move around but can't reproduce is more of like an automaton.
I'm kind of interested, why does reproduction play a role in whether it's important, whether it's sacred or should be respected?
That's a good question. Maybe it's not reproduction. Maybe it's sort of the quality of being able to continue to exist and to change unpredictably in the way it exists over time, or maybe that's where, and there's probably still a better way to say it, it appears to act to continue to exist comes in. So that you could apply, reproduction is one way of approaching that, but it could also apply to some singular entity that doesn't want to die.
Okay. So as you know, we know each other. We've known each other for a while, and I know that you like to play with definitions and to think about definitions, and like, what is a sandwich? What is a hamburger? Right? It's like fun to think about. What are you trying to eliminate when you added the condition to begin with?
Oh, that's a good point. I think I was trying to eliminate things like viruses and prions.
Okay.
Because those exist in this weird space where they're like quirks of matter, and they seem to be able to propagate themselves and make decisions and stuff. But I don't want my definition of life to include them, or I think that it would be dangerous to include them in my definition of life. So like, yeah, I'm trying to rule out prions, stuff like that, viruses.
So that would explain why you added it doesn't matter that they reproduce. It matters that they react to their environment. But what were you trying to eliminate when you said that they need to reproduce?
I think I was trying to get at like a program on a computer.
Okay.
A program on a computer can be complex. It can seem to make decisions. You could write a program that changes over time, but most computer programs don't feel lifelike because they don't have any needs. They don't want to stay alive. You know what I mean? They feel like a machine or a tool because they have a defined set of things that they do that don't change over time, and they don't react to their environment in a way to, you know what I mean? And then I think there are other things like that, like a paper bag blowing down the street or something.
It complicatedly reflects their environment, but there's something missing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the paper bag is actually probably a pretty good one, because you could stare at one of those and see right. It could act like a living thing, right. But there's something missing.
Okay, so there's something about maybe something about modeling the environment, maybe an entity who models its own environment, something like that?
Yeah, actually, that's a big one. And maybe another part is, but I haven't explored this yet, that I feel that I can model its kind of wants or its behavior.
So predictability in a way?
Not predictability, but that I have a desire to try to predict it, kind of. That I feel that it could be modeled.
Theoretically. That it's not random.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I find an ant and I'm like, put a piece of sugar over here and it goes over here, and then I go, woo, and it like turns around and runs away. Like I may, even if I tried to model that behavior in my own mind and failed, it suggests there's something there that could be modeled.
It sounds like you're suggesting that not only does it model the environment, but it does so in a way that furthers its goals. something
Yeah,
like
it
that.
appears to have goals.
Right,
It,
right.
it gives the sense of having goals.
Okay, okay. So then that would exclude things maybe like viruses. Would it exclude things like bacteria?
They're borderline, but I think probably it would not exclude them.
Okay.
Yeah,
What about plants?
it would. Plants are a very strange kind of life to me,
Uh-huh.
but it would not exclude plants.
It would not exclude plants. So plants would be considered life, and they maybe don't model things the way that ants model things, but they do react to further their own goals
Yeah,
in a way.
absolutely. Yeah, they react in complex ways, not that it's necessary, but to be what they want to be, basically.
So I think I'm gonna push on that just a little bit, I don't want this to be all about definitions, but I think that this is an interesting thing to explore. What about a thermostat?
It, I wouldn't give it life, or label it with life. It's missing that other quality. It doesn't seem to have self-interest. It doesn't. It won't do anything to try to continue. But that, I don't know if that's. My gut feeling, this isn't a good way of putting it, is that there's some very, very low bar for unpredictability or complexity.
Okay, and that thermostats aren't complex enough.
Yeah, maybe it's the unpredictability. If I can fully predict something's behavior
Oh,
long term, then it's not. It would be harder for me to see that thing as alive.
okay.
Not impossible. So I don't know yet the thermostat example.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you have a notion, and maybe it's hard to pin down exactly, and maybe that's not important, but you have some idea of the things that fall into this category, and it includes things like trees and animals and maybe bacteria,
Yeah,
and not viruses.
yeah. I think it's fairly safe to include bacteria and other things like that.
Okay, and not computer programs that exist today. What about more complicated programs that beg you not to turn them off?
If a program just stopped there, no. But if
Yeah,
a program
right. If
feels
person is,
alive
yeah,
to me, meaning that it's behaving in ways that are a little bit unpredictable and that it seems to have wants
okay,
for its own existence, then yes. Even if it's not that complex, I could see a computer program flipping that bit, triggering that feeling for me. And then it would be hard for me to kill that process.
yeah, I can understand that it would be hard. I think it would be hard for me to turn something off that was begging me not to turn it off. Unless I knew that it was just when someone hits Control C, it types out, please do not turn me off, right? But if there was more to it, you think, oh gosh, I'm maybe I shouldn't close this program,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is something there about having an internal point of view or its own view of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was calling maybe modeling the world, maybe it's just a perspective, that it has a perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay. So this discussion is going to be me pushing back on this idea, to sort of help you explore it and to see whether it's justified. Sorry about the noise.
It's okay.
So you said that, if it convinces you, or if you can't model it fully, or if, things like that, does it make sense that the importance of something depends on whether you can do certain things?
Thinking. So
Yeah.
like, would an example of this kind of be of a different form of this? So I can make sure I'm being like silenced by by the thing you mean for me? Or is it similar to saying like, when a building's on fire, someone really needs to go in and like turn this knob to turn off the fire machines that are, it's pyrotechnics, whatever. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. I know I can't do that, but that doesn't mean it's not important to do. Is that a different but sort of similar thing?
I'm not quite sure I understand.
Okay. Is it like someone who brings an old sick dog to a vet to have that dog put down,
okay,
but wouldn't feel comfortable doing it personally?
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying.
That may be different, actually different from what you're getting at.
I kind of wonder if it might be.
Is what you're getting at more like, do my feelings about something make those feelings kind of the truth, or like the like right for the world?
I think that's what I'm getting at. Like you mentioned, and what you just brought up actually is interesting, and maybe we should come back to it. And actually, let me write it down so that we remember it. So the idea was things that are important, but you wouldn't personally do, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But just for a minute, let's explore just the idea that, you know, I heard you say that you want to be convinced that this thing had sufficiently complex internal state, and that it was maybe had a perspective, and maybe you know, I talked about modeling, something in that sort of ballpark, and that if you could completely model it and predict its behavior, you know, well enough, if you could understand exactly how it worked, that it would no longer be important. Maybe it shouldn't be respected as much, perhaps. And I guess my question is, why do you have any role in whether it's important?
I hope this isn't a cop-out answer.
Okay.
But it's, I think, the best answer I've got right now, which is that importance of this nature is always relative, or is always individual perspective. There's no absolute answer of how important something is. Okay. It's always relative to the viewer, the asker.
So maybe we could refine the claim to be that you find life valuable, sacred, to be respected, that you respect life, perhaps.
Or what if I should respect life? Or yeah, or that it is good to respect life? I don't know. Maybe there's a way to say that.
Yeah, that to you, the things, certain things have some property that is involved with, you know, having a perspective, having a point of view, being maybe aware is too strong of a word. You know, I'm not sure bacteria are aware, or plants probably. You can't say plants are aware. At least I don't think many people would. That's leading, I'm sorry. Would you consider plants to be aware?
In a limited sense, I would, but I think it's a good point. That's not what is making me.
Yeah.
It's more the fact that they behave in a limited way. They struggle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
So I'll write down struggle just to. I'm not sure if this is helpful, but maybe having the little notes. So maybe this is an uncharitable take on the claim, but it's kind of like saying there's a class of things that I care about, and you get to decide what you care about. That's maybe uncharitable. I think.
Do you get to decide what I care about?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like, you're interested in eliminating viruses and you're interested in including plants. Um, do, you, do you see where I'm
It's
coming
more,
from?
I think so. Could I, maybe an example, this might be unhelpful, we can go back, but like, I've struggled with, if let's say I go to take a shower
Yeah,
and there's an ant in the bathtub.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It'll be real hard for me to do anything other than stop whatever I'm doing, find a little box or something, take however long it's going to take to capture that ant and take it
Yeah,
outside.
yeah.
Um, and the belief is that that is a way that I should aspire to act, and
Yeah.
that it would be bad for me to
There's
operate
morality.
that way.
It's a moral
Yeah.
claim.
Maybe. Yeah, that my own moral system shouldn't allow for that.
Okay. Let's maybe move away just for the second about the details about defining what should be included and what shouldn't be. Do you
Okay.
think other people should believe this way? Do you think other people should behave this way?
I don't know. I think that the best I can do, I think that the truth for me is actually no. I don't believe that other people should behave this way unless they want to also,
Uh-huh.
or unless it's true for them also,
Uh-huh.
which is weird, but yeah.
It as a person of words, it makes me wonder if maybe sacred isn't the right word. If you don't believe everyone should hold the same respect, hold the same level of sanctity, it seems like a personal thing. It seems maybe, I'm not sure. Does any of that make it more or less clear?
I think it makes it a little bit less clear to me because I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know, you can find something sacred and still stand by while someone from a different mental camp or a different, theological camp
Yeah.
burns it to the ground. And I mean, you might try to stop them, but you may not require that they see it the same way you do. Maybe that's actually, maybe there's simpler examples like that. Like I consider, if I consider cows sacred, I have ways that I'm going to behave around them. But if I don't think that everyone in the world who eats meat, who eats cows specifically, is harming me kind of, or harming that. I think sacred can still be personal.
Okay.
I would be open to finding a better word though.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, maybe sacred it works, but I think I'm understanding where what you're saying.
Like a feeling of awe where I must consider this thing to be another living thing in my presence instead of a bit of dust. I need to, yeah.
So is your claim the same as life is awe-inspiring?
No, because I don't think so, because it mostly constrains or informs my actions. It's less about the feeling. The feeling is there, but more that if I feel like, if I feel like throwing this ant in the garbage, I shouldn't, or like if it's too hot for this ant, I really want it to be cold in here, but there's two people in here now.
Okay.
The kind of thing, that kind of thing.
Okay, so let's maybe stick with the ant specifically and not talk about definitions and things, because this seems like a really concrete example. All right. So how confident are you? sorry about the noise. How confident are you that, um, maybe I'll ask a couple questions in this area, but how confident are you that, that when you find an ant in the bathroom, you should take him outside? Like, how strongly do you believe this is a should?
I'm not, let me think. I would say this is not as satisfying a number as it should be. I would say between 40 and 60% sure.
Okay.
Fuzzy range.
No, it's fine. How would that compare?
It's not 100%. It's not 100%.
It's not 100%, but that's okay. That's okay. How would it compare, for example, if you found a squirrel? Would it be a different confidence?
Yeah, I guess maybe because then that's not just my standard. Then like maybe my confidence number is adjusted by societal expectations.
Oh.
So if I lived in isolation in a pocket universe, the squirrel and the ant might both be about the same.
But you know that people think differently of it.
Yeah. So in this world, I would be more careful with the squirrel. Also, because the squirrel can do me more damage if it fights back. But my confidence would be higher because it gets that boost from societal expectations. Doesn't change my fundamental feelings, but yeah.
Huh. I would assume that the same would be true if it was a person or something like that it would be more confident than a squirrel.
Yeah.
Or maybe.
Yeah, I think this fundamental, again, pocket universe. I think there would be a difference, but it would be a relatively small difference. Maybe mid-sized difference. This world, ant 40 to 60% confident, squirrel 85% confident, person 99%, 99.5% confident that I should act in the interest of this, in this person's interests, kind of.
Yeah. Do you think that it's do you think that it is your confidence that these lives are valuable or that they should be respected, or it's you're confident that these are lives?
First one, definitely the first one.
So let me restate just to make sure I understand. It sounds like you're saying that your question, when you compare an ant and a squirrel and a human, the doubt comes from whether or not the ant is sacred, or does the doubt come from whether or not the ant is alive?
Those two are tangled up, but I would primarily say the first one. I less doubt that I would call it alive, and more wonder, do I have authority here to challenge this life?
So, okay, here's a hypothetical, talking about your universe in a vacuum kind of thing. If the only life in the universe were ants, do you think that their value would somehow change compared to their value?
We're just ants.
Compared to it's just a universe where ants are the only thing that lives.
Yeah.
Do you think that would change their value compared to the universe we have now with all sorts of different kinds of life?
Yeah, I think it would, because of the fact that it's still relative. The life thing is less relative for me. The kind of how much right do I feel like I have to kill this thing, basically, that's what changes, I think, from perspective.
And so can you be more specific?
I'm very willing to take antibiotics.
Okay.
Even that I feel slightly weird about it, but I do it.
Uh-huh.
The fact that I feel slightly weird about it itself weirds me out, but I do it because I feel like my own health, like I'm okay saying thank you for your service, bacteria that are trying to kill me. Like we're ending this.
Right. Right.
If I had an infestation of roaches in my house, I would exterminate them, but it would take more of a toll on me.
You'd feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's changing. I give them all the label of life. I say they're all sacred, but basically, how many tears do I need to shed? That's what changes.
Huh.
Or not need to shed. I don't like that way of putting it, but how much do I think I should feel comfortable making decisions about the future of this thing's life? How much do I allow myself to say, your time on Earth ends here, Ant? Like, do I have that authority? That's what changes.
What do you think makes? What do you think makes that change?
I guess the societal expectations are a big part. Maybe how unique is that point of view is a big one. Like the life experience, the point of view of one ant, the memories of one ant versus another are similar enough, as far as I know. Like the way I model ants, that if I kill one ant, I'm only snuffing out a little bit of experience that's different from all the other ants that are left in the world. If I kill a squirrel, I'm snuffing out a lot more individuality. And a person, other order of magnitude. A person of any age has a singular point of view, and that will no longer exist if that makes no sense.
This kind of seems related to the question I was asking earlier, because again, it sounds like what you're saying is that its importance comes back to your judgment, that somehow your evaluation of whether their perspective matters influences not just your confidence, but actually how much you believe it to be important.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
What do you think about that? Why you?
I think because this is the lame, not the lame answer, but just it's not going to be interesting. Just that with questions like this, it's always going to be an individual point of view. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I care. Like my point of view should inform how I act, and that's good. That's good enough here. So why me? Because it's me who has the fist or the compy thing.
Okay. I think that's pretty much what I'm trying to do. Do you have any questions for me, or do you want to ask? If you need to go, you can stop. Otherwise, we can keep talking about it. You can. Is maybe an aspect of this that you want to talk more about, or anything?
Ooh, I mean, I guess I feel like I understand this point of view better.
In terms of you understand your own point of view.
I understand my own point of view better. I don't feel like it's been challenged, like aggressively challenged.
Well,
and I would be open to that now or in the future. I'm not saying you need to do it, but I'm just noting that I feel like I haven't come closer to having to face the tough question of should I believe this?
It seems to me maybe the biggest problem with it is it's all subjective, and not in like it actually kind of weirds me out that you don't judge other people. I feel like that in some way weakens the idea.
Hmm.
Like how could it be that you should act a certain way, but other people shouldn't?
This is not going to help, but because that other person acting has life and perspective and stuff and all that stuff. And so for me to step in and tell them that, to grab their arm and say, no, stop the stabbing, I have to feel confident enough in that moment to override their point of view, or to consider them to not have a valid point of view in that situation.
I
I
hear
can
you.
think people are wrong. I'm allowed to think people are wrong.
Do
Yeah.
you think people are wrong?
It's hard for me to think from that point of view right now for some reason, but in
So
general, yeah, I think people can be mistaken.
so I know a person who eats beef.
Mhm.
Are they doing something they should not?
I don't know, because I don't know. I think that's an area for me where I question if there's a true nature of the world. And if from this person's point of view, I know this doesn't help. From this person's point of view, um, basically once you kill something, it's not alive anymore. It doesn't have any interest or needs. So you might as well kill it. You might as well eat it. You know, it might want a specific kind of grass while it's alive, but you raised it and you have the authority to take that away. Who am I to say that that's not how the world works? Like, I think I would need evidence, basically. I would need a reason why that belief requires other people to believe it also. Maybe that's it. Either evidence that I think that this is kind of correct in an objective way, A, or B, something about that belief. I know I'm just repeating myself, but it's helping. Something about that belief that I have for myself, incorporates or requires something of other people. And that's a much stronger belief, I think, and a different kind of belief.
So can you restate it one more time?
Let's say it's something kind of silly and practical, like, you shouldn't dump a bunch of poison in the water.
Okay.
I think that's a bad idea. Like, I think there's a lot of ways that can fuck the world up.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm gonna try to. I would vote for not doing that. Or I would, if I was having dinner with someone and they're like, "Yeah, we're opening the poison gates. We have all this poison. We don't know what to do with it, so we're just gonna dump it in the ocean."
Uh-huh.
I would say you really shouldn't do that.
Okay.
And then later, maybe I would call the police or something. I wouldn't tell them that I was calling them, but because I think that there's evidence that I know that in reality it's going to fuck the world up.
But what is different
Life
about
being sacred? What?
Sorry, I did continue.
Life being sacred, whether someone eats a cow or not, I don't know if that fucks the world up. I have no hard proof that it does.
Uh-huh.
So that's the first one. Or especially, you take to an extreme, someone has an isolated compound, like whatever happened, a lot of crazy shit could be happening at any moment in that compound.
Mm-hmm.
If it's really contained, I don't know if I have the authority to say, if these things are happening in that compound, we need to go burn it down and take the guy and, maybe kill him. Or
yeah, I don't. So you're not, I think it's fair to say that you're not comfortable criticizing other people for eating meat, right? We can agree that you're not comfortable doing that.
I have no to minimal interest in
you have that. No to minimal interest
in criticizing other people.
And yet you would be interested, or you are confident that you would criticize someone for dumping poison in the water supply.
Yeah, because I think objectively, that could hurt me, right? Or it could damage the world that me or my children or my children's children live in. or people who I care about, it has kind of measurable consequences.
But eating meat has measurable consequences. I mean, that cow's life was ended. I mean, assuming you're not talking about eating cows that die of old age,
Uh-huh.
right?
What is the effect on the world of killing a cow? How does it make the world worse?
How does dumping poison in the water supply make the world worse? If you'll permit me a rhetorical question, or
it makes let's say, I mean, certainly if it's in the water supply near where I live, it makes my life tricky, frustrating. If I have children or might have children who now have to live in a harder world, I'm not into that. If there are people I care about that now can't drink tap water, that kind of thing.
it sounds like
Also, I say I would have a little bit of kind of a selfness identity with like humanity as a whole.
I think so. It's kind of sounds like you could summarize your objection to dumping poison in the water supply as it would hurt people.
Yeah.
So then why are you comfortable condemning people for hurting people, but not comfortable condemning people for hurting cows if life is sacred?
I'm condemning people for hurting people as a whole, for hurting humanity. If you have a compound off, in the woods that's sealed, and there are things happening to people in that compound where no one ever goes in, no one ever comes out, then I'm not going to say that wouldn't make me uncomfortable, but they wouldn't be hurting people. They're not hurting like the species of humanity that to some extent I identify with as like a superorganism.
So it's sort of, yeah, it sounds like you're pivoting maybe to, instead of life is sacred, that society is sacred. It kind of seems like you have more of a moral compunction to protect society than to protect lives.
I'm saying that I was trying to address the thing like for me believing it versus other people. I'm saying if someone has a mystery compound in the woods, where who knows what happens, I may not feel authority to go in there and shut it down. I may or may not. I would not if I got an invitation to go join them and have some fun. I would not take that invitation because then my own standards apply to my own actions. That's what I was trying to get across there. But once they're hurting me, where me could be the humanity meta organism or superorganism, then that's like they're poisoning me to some extent. And so at that point I have an opinion. But if they're poisoning an ant that's not part of this kind of meta organism, or a person who's in this isolated box, they're not exactly hurting me or humanity.
How much of your reservation comes from the fact that it can hurt you specifically?
My reservation about the dumping poison in the water?
Yeah, versus a compound where people do bad things.
I'm saying that you could say that it's me in that even if they're dumping poison in the water somewhere else, it makes the world less, let's say Spain is just gone, or whatever, I can't go there anymore. It hurts me in certain ways, but also if I'm considering myself part of the organism of humanity, like we've just been injured. We've lost a lot of points of view. We've lost a lot of progress. And I feel a kinship with those points of view. And I feel that those points of view and those people's lives affect the future of my life, my children's life, other people's lives. So that feels personal, even if it doesn't affect me directly, because it affects my species, kind of.
I guess
the compound thing is like, if I, you know, cut off some of my hair or something, and then gave it to you, and then I never saw it again, like whatever you do to that hair or whatever, um, won't affect me anymore because it's not part of the organism anymore, kind of.
I guess I'm having a hard time actually figuring out how this ties into the original claim, because even in a compound, those, I mean, we can be more specific to make it more emotional, or we can be less specific. But
I mean,
those people are alive, and if they're being tortured or something terrible,
if
how is it that you believe their life is sacred, but you're not willing to say that they're important?
I think that is a bit fuzzy, but I'm saying that if I were invited to the compound,
Yeah,
you, you couldn't give me any amount of money to get me to participate.
sure.
That's what that means, I think. That my own actions and feelings about this are are exactly what they are. But saying that that gives me the right to seek out like people violating those actions who have their own point of view and their own moral systems, it's separate. I know it's kind of not how most beliefs work, but
Well, I just, it seems like we should revisit the original claim, because I guess I thought the idea was that it was the individual that was sacred, but it almost sounds like maybe what you're coming around to is that individuals in isolation are actually not sacred. Only individuals that affect the society that you live in.
interesting. That is an interesting way of putting the claim. Because, I wouldn't even say society. You could, well, yeah, I would say you could put me in a bubble with one other person, and or an ant or whatever, and now we've got a society basically.
Okay.
It's not part of the rest of society, but my rules would definitely apply in that bubble because that's part of my world. It's in my light cone, kind of, for lack of a better way of saying it. But if there's some bubble out there with weird shit happening, yeah, it's not part of my society. Therefore, maybe my rules, it's harder for me to justify applying my rules to it. Yeah, and something about the compound has that same feeling, where the isolation means something.
Do you think it's still fair to say that you believe life is sacred, if you believe
It
that?
does seem like it might need a different word. What about I should? I mean, this is not as I don't like this claim, the wording of this claim as much, but I should respect life. I think there's a better claim hiding in here. I don't know. Do you have any better ideas? Just because for me, it's that is the feeling, and that is the word that I would use when I'm looking at my own relationship with other living things.
Maybe this is just me not being able to put it together, but I still am having a hard time figuring out how this is related to individuals and
So is it,
not society, and specifically the society that you live in. It kind of sounds like what you're saying is that the only lives that matter are the lives that you have contact with.
what about the only lives that I have authority over are the lives I have contact with?
So can you say it again?
The only lives that I have authority over are lives who I have contact with.
I think I hear that you're drawing a distinction between, and maybe this was subtext, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but so you don't let me put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
But it's important to you not to violate the, trust, and not trust. It's important for you not to be coercive. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And you're worried that by
only be coercive if I'm very aware that I am doing that, like with intention and with kind of knowledge of the sacrifice.
And you're very concerned that by looking into a society that you're not part of, that you're going to be coercive by accident.
Ooh. I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I would. I think I'm on board with that framing.
There seems to be a struggle here because either not all lives are sacred, specifically only the ones that you come in contact with, or maybe it's not coercive to condemn suffering in societies that you're not a part of.
Yeah, these are both.
They seem to sort of fight each other.
Yeah, that's true.
How do you feel about that?
I don't have any feelings about that right now. I think that conflict is very real, and I think I have no answers to it, or no.
Okay.
It feels like identifying that conflict and clarifying it is the most that I can contribute to.
I totally hear you. You don't have to have a response.
Yeah, I should ponder it, but
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for taking the time, Sidney. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this.
Thanks. Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
I hope you enjoyed this.
I did.
And you continue to.
I did. All right. See you, Sidney.
Bye, Jackie.